Well, hello, hello. Birdie here, and I am painting our little gnome interchangeable sign. I do hop on, say hi, let me know what you're doing today. And I'm just getting all the angles right. Mirror that guy. Hello, hello. So I'm going live on in our Crafty Living group. Hi, Cara. And also on TikTok. So for those of you on TikTok, we have a dedicated group for our DIY kits and our crafty tips and tricks and kind of a VIP coupons you get in the group. And so we'd love to have you over in the group. It's called Crafty Living with Birdie, and the link is in our bio. So I'm just trying to get my feed up so I can see comments. Just give me a second. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So this little guy is super cute. If you love gnomes, you're going to love this. It comes with the round, which is, I think, 10 inches. 10 and some. 10.5. And then the little gnome here, and then you get all these cute little hands to attach to and change out as you want. So I'm going to paint mine today and show you how I would finish it. But these DIY kits are super fun because they allow you to finish it however you want to do it, which is the great thing about doing your own DIY crafts is you get to choose how you're going to finish it. You get to choose your own colors so that they match your decor, all of those things, right? So you get to customize it how you want. So I'm just going to start by painting the main piece white. And I might bring out some accents with the faux shiplap here. The other thing I want to mention is there's no hanger on this. If you'd like to hang it, you have a couple different options. You could drill a hole here and then hang it with a ribbon. You could put it in an easel or a plate stand. So it would be a shelf sitter. The other thing that I like to do with my signs, this size and bigger, is use the command strips. And so those work really well for hanging these signs, and they're not permanent. So that's nice. What else was I gonna say? There was another option. I can't think of it. These wood signs are cut from a 1/4 inch birch plywood. So unfortunately, they're a little too thin to actually put like a sawtooth hanger on the back, or like a D-ring or some other more of those actual picture frame type attachments. Those the little screws or the nails that come with those type of attachments would end up poking through the wood. But these are light enough as well, though. You could just glue some jute on the back, and maybe I'll do that at the end just to show you what I mean. But again, you could put it on a plate stand and make it a shelf sitter, or use the command strips. And highly recommend those. They're so easy and removable. And I just use regular craft paint to finish my signs. So I am using Apple Barrel in white to finish the back. And I'm going to let that dry for a second. When you're painting your signs or your kits, I recommend doing a light coat as opposed to a really heavy coat, just because it will dry faster and it doesn't tend to get kind of gloopy and you'll start to pull your paint away and it comes this globby mess. So a couple light coats is recommended. Wood is super porous, so it will take a couple coats with certain colors to get a good finish. So what color should I paint this little guy? I think I'll go with, this is the color of my, or somewhat similar color to my buffet in my kitchen. So I think I'll paint his hat and his pants, this Green Lagoon from Deco Art. And I'm almost out of it, so I'm just gonna, I might be out of it. I thought I had just a titch left, but let me find something else. Oh, I have another one, a brand new one. Perfect. Continue on with the original plan. So the link to our group is in the bio. It's called Crafty Living, and we would love to have you there in the group. That is where I typically go live, and the videos are available for replay if you ever miss a live. And this is where I'm going to do a lot of my crafty tricks and tips and how I finish our kits, and then just a bunch of other stuff. So we'd love to have you come join us over there. With the changes to the algorithms and all of that, it is recommended to gather your people in groups so you have an easier way to communicate and share. Because pages on Facebook right now are kind of getting lost in some of the changes they're making. Things just aren't getting pushed out, things aren't getting seen, that type of thing. Yeah, I like that color. It's a great color. So I'm going to do his pants as well. And then I might put a pattern on his hat, maybe some polka dots or something, just to add a little bit more fun. So all of our pieces, or if you notice on our pieces, I should say, not every piece has this, but most of the items we try and include a line for helping you finish the item, and those are called score marks, and they're engraved into the wood. So you'll see that I just took that turquoise color and I messily painted in his pants. And I'm still able to see that line for his boots and the lines for his beard. So that makes it really nice. They're engraved, they've got some depth to them. So it makes it easy for, like, say this piece. We can paint this entire thing white to start with. So we're not trying to have to paint all of these individual lines. So you paint your base coat, and then I can come in, I'll still be able to see these lines for this cute little cup, and just paint over that white in those areas. And then also we'll just paint the heart. So it makes it a little bit easier to paint the pieces with those there. So as you're joining, say hi. Let me know what you're doing. Where are you watching from? Okay, let's get some black out. These are all wood pieces too. So one of the things that I like to mention is wood is very porous. So like I said earlier, it might take a couple coats to cover, but also sometimes depending on the wood and how it was cut and how wet or how much moisture is in the wood and all of those things, there's a lot of different variables that go into it. But sometimes as you're painting them, you'll notice that it used to be smooth, then you paint it and it has this rough texture. So, and I can kind of see it on my hat. It's going to happen on my hat. I'm kind of glad that that happened. But so it's smooth, you paint it and all of a sudden it becomes super rough. And that's only because the wood, once it gets wet, sometimes those little fibers will start to stand up and create a rough texture. And if that happens, then you can just grab a sanding block and knock those fibers down with your sanding block. It doesn't take a lot. You don't have to sand it heavily. Just a light sanding really helps. And when I say light sanding, I even mean super light so that you're not even taking any color off. You're simply just knocking those fibers that are standing up. You don't want to have to repaint it, and you shouldn't have to sand it to the point where you're having to repaint your piece. All right, so I just had black on my brush from my, when I was painting the little boots. And I just am grabbing white and letting those two colors blend right on my little beard here. I'm not mixing anything. And I love doing this for gnome beards to get a really random, fun blend of these colors. So some areas are a little darker, some are a little lighter, which is kind of what beards do. We have different varying colors. And you could paint your beard any color if you didn't want to have a gray beard. You could do a brown, a red, just a white beard even. And I'm also making sure that my brush strokes are moving in the downward area or downward direction. By that, I start at the top and I brush down. I'm not brushing right or left because hair doesn't flow right to left. So I'm trying to keep the brush strokes up and down to really make it look like it's actual hair. So you kind of want to think about that as well when you're bringing or painting your beard. And if it ever is too dark or too light, you can always go back and repaint it, which is the best thing about painting. If you don't like it, just let it dry and do it again. we go. Let's just kind of blend it a little bit more, just bringing a little more light color into it. So this is a little kit that just was launched yesterday. So it was just made available in our shop yesterday. A new product. And if you're in our Crafty Living group, you'll also see that there was a coupon that was posted yesterday. That's another benefit of the group, is you get VIP coupons for newly launched items. There we go. I think he needs some pattern on his hat. And the color of the wood for his nose is really perfect. I don't know if I'll do anything with it. I think it's that perfect color. Sometimes the wood we get is a little bit darker, and sometimes it's a little bit lighter. Again, it's just kind of the nature of wood and what we can find. But I might do some white polka dots on his hat. So let me find, I like using the back of a brush, or even like an old or dowel that I've cut down. So this is just a wooden dowel I probably picked up at a craft store, and I'm going to use that to create some polka dots. I'm going to let that dry actually for a few minutes. Okay, so let's move back to this piece, and we'll let our gnome dry for a few minutes. It's a little damp, but that's okay. So I'm going to bring in some gray around these lines here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a baby wipe, and I'm going to grab my liner brush. Let's see, where is it? That's about the smallest one I've got right now. And I'm going to drag some black over these lines. And it doesn't have to be perfect, so I'm going to mess it up here in just a minute. So I'm going to start with those two. And I'm going to grab my baby wipe. I'm going to dip it in the white, kind of tap, 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 trying to get most of it off, but just so I have a little bit of white on there. And then I'm going to go right over that line I just did. And see how that just gives you a nice, soft blend where it's kind of looks like we've got that old rustic look where the two slats of wood have come together and they're kind of old and dirty, and you see kind of a shadow happening in there where maybe there's a crack or whatnot. So that's just a fun way to add this texture and add a little more dimension to this backer board of this sign. And you don't have to do this. We can see, you can still see those lines from the score marks even after you paint it. So they're still visible, but I just wanted to bring in a little more dimension into these guys. So I'm just gonna come through and blend that black in. Let's get some white on my... You can kind of bring in some more gray kind of in different areas. Fun way to make a kind of a rustic look. Okay, I'm going to get a clean rag and pick up some white and just add some areas of that bright white now. And maybe tone down some gray areas. Okay, I'm liking that. So you kind of just play with it, especially when you're working on trying to create a rustic old finish. It's really about the layers, and sometimes you need multiple layers to get the finish you want. You just kind of play with the colors and see how it goes. So that gives a really nice faux shiplap backer. And then what I can do is you can use an old gift card, you can use a palette knife, whatever you want, but we can then just come in. I'm putting paint just right on the edge of my palette knife here, and I'm just going to set it down right on my line, and you can kind of just saw down that edge, and this is just going to give us again some more dimension to where I want it to show those two pieces of wood coming together. And if it's not solid all the way down, that's okay too. But you can also just use the edge of a gift card. So let me show you that. So I'm just going to add paint. This adds just a bit of a thicker line. So I've got paint right on the edge here. And I can come in and just scrape going down. You don't necessarily need a palette knife. Just an old gift card works great. There we go. Okay, call that good. Let's go back to our gnome, and then we'll start painting some little interchangeables here. So his hat's dry, and I noticed, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but there were some little areas right up in here where that paint did raise those fibers. This is just a little sanding block. I get packs of them on Amazon for our craft kits. And I'm just gonna lightly go over it. If you want to pick some of these up, they are actually listed under nail files. Nail file sanding blocks. But now that is super smooth, and I didn't get rid of any of that color. And there'll be a little bit on the sanding block, but not a lot. Okay, let's see, I'm gonna just do his whole body here. His beard kind of got some fibers sticking up as well. When you do this, you just want to make sure that your paint is dry, so you're not dragging your paint into other areas. And there we go. All right. Just gonna wipe the dust off here. Baby wipes are one of my must-have tools in the crafting realm. Super versatile. Okay, let's put those polka dots on here. Get this to work. There we go. So as I'm using this tool, I'm not pressing down too hard. I'm just really trying to just push that paint off the edge or the bottom of my dowel here. If I press too hard, it tends to just push out the side, and then the inside of the polka dot is left empty, and all of the paint has just squished out the edge. So if you're using a dowel, just use a really light pressure to the point where you're not even pushing the dowel against the wood, you're just depositing that paint. I want to have some of the polka dots coming off of the hat. Looks like they're kind of, you just see a partial there. There we go. I think that adds just some fun, whimsical feel to the gnome as opposed to it just being solid, but you could do solid too. You could also add pattern paper to these. So I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll come back and add some detail to his beard and stuff, add some highlight lines and some detail lines, but let's paint a few of these little hands. So I won't have enough time today to paint all the hands, but I'm trying and do what I can within the hour. I don't want to keep us too long, so let me pull up my timer here. Okay, we're about 30 minutes in. All right. So I was thinking I was going to do more of the spring current holidays right now, but what you get is you'll get a ice cream cone with the kit, you'll get a bunny, you'll get a little latte cup, you'll get a snowflake, a pumpkin, a watermelon, USA plaque, a tree, a flag, or not a flag, excuse me, a kite, and so today I'm going to work on, oh, and you'll get a palm tree. So I thought I'd try and do these 4 right now. And let me find a color that I want to use for his hands. Let's see what I got here. Thought I had something. We'll use this sugared peach, I think will look good. Which means I'll probably paint his nose so his hands match his nose. All right. So I'm going to grab him real quick. I'll paint his nose. I wasn't going to, but if I'm going to paint his hands, we might as well have them match. And if painting with a paintbrush is not your cup of tea, but you'd still like to do these, like I said, you could add patterned paper to certain areas. And then another option would be to use paint pens. They work great on the wood. And I don't have any right now, but that's okay. The next time I do a tutorial, I'll have them with me. So I'm going to start by just painting all these little hands. So we've got your little flower there for spring. We've got a heart for Valentine's Day. And I believe this kit comes with 13 hands. And we tried to pick up, you know, most of the holidays. And then have a few just fun ones. Summer, fall, that type of thing, winter. So essentially you could change them out every month. So with this kit, you will need to purchase some sort of attachment device or some way to attach your little hands. The kit only is the wood pieces. So you could use Velcro. You could get the little Velcro dots and attach them that way. Or you could get magnets. And I was looking at magnets, and my initial search didn't find really any thin round magnets. All I could find were some of those thicker ones, which would then put your hands, you know, quite far away from the body. So if I were to use magnets, I might just pick up those strips. So you can get, I think they even come in a roll. And you unroll it, it's already got the adhesive on one side, and you just cut little squares or little strips, but they're really thin, and so I think I would use that if I was going to use magnets. And I wanted to show you, I picked these up at the dollar store. They're called Fastener Dots in their crafter square section. And with dollar stores, I don't know if yours would carry these or not, but these are they have adhesive on them as well. At least I think. Yes. Yes, they do. But if you found Velcro that didn't have adhesive, you could always just glue them on as well. Okay. Our little hands are painted. So let's see. I'll start with this heart. And I'm going to paint it this bright magenta from Apple Barrel. It's one of my favorite dark pinks. And with these little pieces, you could simply just paint them solid and they would be super cute. Or you can get as detailed as you want. You could add little dots. You could add a little word, a little saying, a quote. And just have fun with these little hands holding the elements. Interchangeable parts. You could paint it solid and then add some fun stickers on top of it. All right, so I'm going to keep that one as is. I might come back and add some detail if we have time, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to try and get my base color on most of these, and then I'm going to get a green for the shamrock. And I'm using just a Kelly Green by Apple Barrel. So we actually added 2 different interchangeables on Thursday, and we're hoping to add some more in the future, but for now we have the Gnome sign, and then we also have a square sign that has the words enjoy life, and it has little discs that you interchange. So you get all the parts, it comes with the frame around the sign, and it's kind of a layered sign, so you get lots of different layers, and then you glue it all together, and then these little discs slot into a disc that's glued onto the sign. So that one's a fun one too, and that one comes with, I think, 12 or 13 interchangeables. There we go. All right, and then I'm going to paint the little bunny white. And speaking of bunnies, we have a lot of cute bunny kits, Easter kits that hit the shop yesterday as well. And have plans to do another Easter launch. So we'll have another set of Easter kits coming out. I just love bunnies, and I love crafting things with the bunnies. Some people like the chickens, some people, or the chicks, little chicks, the baby chickens, and then some people like the lambs to decorate with the lambs, but I just like bunnies. There's so much cute Easter decor out there. It's kind of overwhelming because you kind of want to do it all. That's how I feel anyways. I'm like, oh yes, I could do that, and oh yes, I want to do that, but at the end of the day, my house would not hold all the crafts that I would want to do. It's already overtaking a good part of my house. Okay, so the flower, I don't want to do pink, I don't think. I think I'll do a purple flower. Or I could do a yellow flower, a yellow daisy flower. What do you think? What color flower should I do? I've got this kind of like a lilac, well, it's a petunia purple, or I could do a soft pale daffodil color. Let me know. What do you think? Purple or yellow? Purple or yellow for this flower? You choose. And then the other thing about the kits is they have these are laser cut pieces. And so I like to keep the edges this really dark finish. It's kind of a dark brown finish. And so I'll just go through and clean up my edges with a baby white to keep that dark edge on all my pieces. Because I don't want to have to paint all these edges. And especially on pieces like this where you have a lot of detail happening, I don't want to have to try and get in there and paint all that to make it look nice and clean, or around his little hand here. So what I'll do is if I get paint on the edge, I really try not to, but if I get paint on the edge, I'll just take a baby wipe and wipe it away and kind of clean it up just to keep those dark edges. So that is one way. All right, I think I'll do a purple flower and get that base coat in. So we have time to do a little bit of some detail work on these hands. So as I'm painting my pieces, I like to start my brush stroke inside and pull away to the, or pull up to the outside. And that way my edges stay fairly clean. Instead of starting out here and pulling this way, what will happen is the paint will catch on your edge, and then you'll end up with paint there. So if you start inside, set your brush down on your piece and just brush to the edge. That really helps keep those edges clean. The lilac is about the first flower to bloom where I live. It's not the very first. It's a fairly early bloomer, and it's a shrub that is all over the place, and it has the best smelling flowers ever. So I am excited for spring, to say the least. And some nice smelling flowers. So I just painted this entire thing, and I can still see that center circle. I can still see some of these lines, so that when I want to go back and add that detail, I can. But I didn't have to worry about trying to paint around that circle because I can still see that score mark. Now, eventually, if you get tons and tons of paint on your piece, you will eventually fill those score marks and they will disappear. But for the most part, they stay fairly easy to see. You might just have to kind of tip it here. And if you really want to keep your score marks so you see them afterwards, I use this pointer tool, piercer tool. I'm not sure what they call it, but it's got a nice tip on it. I got it at the dollar store. I think you get a pack of 2 of them. But you can use this to dig out that paint, so you can come in and really make those marks stand out, which are somewhat helpful in pieces where you don't want to necessarily have a secondary paint color. Maybe you just want those score marks to do the work to show the detail. This tool would be really helpful on this piece, where if you're just painting it white and not adding that gray to it, you could come through and really make those lines stand out by pulling that paint out with a tool like this. And it doesn't have to be this one in particular. You could use a push pin or a sewing needle or something like that. Okay, let's go back to the heart. We'll add a little bit of detail to this. It's kind of got a rough finish, so I'm going to sand it a little bit. There we go. And if you didn't know, you can clean your sanding blocks just by tapping. It will get some of that excess dust off, and then you can kind of scrub it a little bit. Eventually, though, they do deteriorate, and you have to start with a new one. Cara says she's so ready for spring too. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, let's see. What should we do? Let's add some detail to this cute little heart. I think I'll add some words on here. And this is where a paint pen comes in handy. Let's see if I have a white one that has some ink in it. My white ones always go out first, even though they're used the least. I'm not sure why that is, but using a Posca pen, I'm going to do X, O, X, O. And then let's just add some stitching around the edge here. Just a bunch of little dashes. There you go. I think that really dresses up that heart. And so you look super cute holding that. All right, let's go to the shamrock here. Just knock down those fibers that are standing up. All right, and the green didn't cover as well as that pink did, so I'm actually going to do a quick second coat of green. And we might come back to this one. I really want it to be a nice solid green, and sometimes, depending on the paint, depending on the wood, I'm just going to need a couple coats to get a good coverage. Yeah, that's a lot better. And we'll move on to the bunny. Again, we'll just do a quick little sanding here. When you're using a sanding block or sanding paper, one thing to note is get one that is a very fine grit. So 220 and up is what I use. I think these little sanding blocks are 220. I think one side's 220 and one side's 180. I can't remember how I bought them. Okay, let's put some, I'm gonna get some light pink out, and I'll put a cute little face on this bunny. I'm gonna use a dotting tool like this, or this one I got at the dollar store. I think it's an embossing, I think it's called Embossing Stylist from the dollar store. And then these came with some graphite paper. So I'm going to use them to make a little nose. I think that's going to be too big. Let's go the other side. So I'm going to push down and drag for one side. So I'm trying to create a heart nose. We'll see how well I do. I think that looks okay. Can you see that? Cute, cute. All right, then let's get a little eye, a couple little eyes here. Just that cute little face. I just love bunny faces. It's my favorite. All right, let's see. I'm going to try a graphite pen on this and see if I can use it to put little whiskers. So that actually worked perfect. All right, then let's get some pink in his ears. So I'm going to use some watered down pink. So it's really super light. And soft. And then maybe he has, I should have put the rosy cheeks on first. Oh well. Maybe he has a soft little belly, soft pink belly. I've been in painting bunny mode lately. So I'm trying to create some different classes for some local paint classes, and trying to develop some cute little bunny door hangers. All right, so for this, I think I'll use this coordinating pink here and just bring in some pink along these lines here. For a secondary color. I'm going to grab that purple, just kind of blend that in there. And bring a little bit of that pink out on the outside of the flower. So I've got a blend of the pink and the purple on my brush. And I'm just blending that as I brush it. And I'm lightly just dragging my brush around the edge here. Kind of creating a more of a pinky purple. Something to just give my edge some definition with a different color. I've got some areas here that just need to be filled in a little bit more. And then I'll come in that center with a yellow. All right, we'll let that dry. I'm not positive I love it, but we're gonna let it dry and see how it looks. All right, let's grab that yellow. Maybe that's what's throwing me off, is that center bit. Thank you, Cara. Okay. Let's go back to our shamrock. I might come back to that flower and fiddle with it a little bit more. I love the bunny. I think the bunny's done. The heart's done. Let's just add some detail to this shamrock. And what do I want to do here? I think I'm going to do an alternate of the polka dots, yellow and a white. So let's do, I've got two stylists here. Let's see if I can keep them straight as we go. We'll go white, yellow, white, and we'll go all the way around. This yellow with this green kind of makes it look a little bit like gold. You could definitely just put some gold paint on here as well. So many different ways you could decorate these little hands, these little ornaments. That's what I like to think of them as. They're just little ornaments for the sign. These little dotting tools sure make it easy to put little dots where you need them. It's kind of a fun little pattern. It was a little too small of an ornament to actually put a word. I was going to try and put maybe lucky or kiss me or I'm Irish or something, but there's not much space there. So we'll just go with a pattern. Okay, I'm just going to rotate it to get this last petal here. When I was a kid, I used to think four-leaf clovers were super rare. And if you ever found one, that meant you were super lucky, right? But I've come to find out that I've seen quite a few four-leaf clovers in a clover field, so I don't think they're as rare as I once thought as a kid. So there we go. I think that's cute. So it adds a little bit of detail to that little shamrock. Okay, so let's go back to this. I want to just maybe touch this up a little bit. I'm going to get some of this purple, add a little white to it, and kind of that pink just wasn't what it needed. So I'm going to go back over with just a light purple. That same color, just added a little white to it. And I'm just following those score marks that are on the flower. And I think that looks a little bit better. Then I'm going to take that same light purple and just come along the outside here. There we go. There we go. I like that. And then I'm going to add a little white to the center here for a highlight in the center there. Okay, there we go. So, perfect timing. We are at about an hour. So the last thing I want to show you is, so when you're attaching your, oh, we wanted to add some detail to this. So let me do that real quick. I'm going to grab my brush. This will only take a minute. I'm going to go grab some black. And the first thing I want to do is I just want to add some lines in his beard. I know most of the beard's going to be covered up from his little hand ornaments, but along the edge here, I like to add just a few black lines. And we can add some detail lines around his hat. Okay. And that just helps kind of define him. And I'm going to grab a little bit of this pink and add a pink little line along the top of his nose. Maybe grab a little bit of that white as well. Help it stand out. There we go. Just to give him a little rosy nose there. Then I'm going to add a few highlight lines. So I'm going to grab some white. And kind of the same thing with the black, just adding some lines inside his beard here. And I'm going to use the white and add a line on top of his foot or his shoe here. And then around the hat, add a few lines in his hat as well. There we go. You can also add some lines to his hands, maybe some white lines for the highlights. You could add some black lines to define those. But like I said, you can get as detailed with these as you want. You could keep it simple and they would still be super cute. You could add pattern paper. You could use paint pens, all sorts of different ways to decorate these cute little interchangeables. So the next step then, after you've got your pieces painted, we're just going to use some glue on the back here. And I like this Stick Fast Instant Adhesive. It's kind of like super glue. It's a little bit more thick. I know you can get thick super glue, so, but it comes in a big bottle because I use a lot of glue. And so for me to have a good supply on hand is important. So I'm just going to center this guy, make sure he's on there straight, and then press. And I might get a weight. This really only takes a couple seconds to set. It takes longer to cure, but it does set up quickly. Bonds instantly in seconds, 15 minutes to cure, something like that, I think. Stick fast. And this is the thick stuff. So if you're looking for, if you'd like to get this, there's Stick Fast in a thin, which is super watery, and then there's the thick that doesn't go all over. It kind of is a thicker formula. So there we go. All right, so then I'm going to get these guys, and however you want to attach your little ornaments, your little hands, you can use Velcro or magnets. And if you do the magnets, I would suggest finding like a magnetic strip that has adhesive on it already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the magnet or the adhesive for the one side. So I've got the hard part of the Velcro here. I've got the soft on this side. And with this kit, unfortunately, I'm only going to use one of the harder parts, you know, the scratchier side of that Velcro. And then for all of my ornaments, I'm going to use the soft. So I'll end up having a bunch of these other pieces left over, but that's okay. So I'm going to just put this little section down kind of in the center there. And then I'm going to attach one of my ornaments, and I'm going to try and line it up where I want it. You might want it kind of turned. You might want it just straight on. I'm going to just have mine be at an angle here. and then I'm going to press. And I had put that one piece of Velcro, I put the two together, so now when I lift this up, that Velcro is right where I want it. So now we're going to go to the next. This is in the center. This is ready to go. It's stuck there. Now I'm going to grab another of that soft side Velcro. I'm going to put it right on the Velcro there, sticky side up. And this just allows me to position my pieces where I want instead of thinking about putting them here, which might put your piece up here or here, depending on where you put your original piece, if that makes sense. So let's see, where do I want this little guy? I think he's going to be kind of further down. So essentially, we'll press and then we'll lift away. So you'll see that that Velcro actually went where his little head is. Okay, if I would have just put that Velcro right here, he would have been way up here like this, covering his face, which is okay too if he's holding him. You know, he might be hopping up in his nose. So, next piece, I'm going to grab that soft side of the Velcro. I'm going to stick it on my original piece there. And then I can place my heart where I want it, press. It's going to stick to it, and then I put it right there. So most of the time, your Velcro will be in the center of your piece, but sometimes it won't. So it's really helpful to do it this way so you get it exactly where you want. All right, and then this guy. My dots are still wet, so I'm trying to be careful not to smudge my dots, but there's that piece there. So those are the 4 pieces, or this is the Gnome Interchangeable Sign Kit that is available on our website. You get 13 little hands to decorate, and I think this is just super cute. So it's St. Patty's Day coming up. We'll put this on. And so to hang this, remember you can use a command strip on the back. You could use a plate stand and have this be a cute little shelf sitter. And you can get small plate stands at the dollar store. We also have plate stands, or easels we call them, in the shop. And I like ours because you can unfold them and store them flat. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you is you could use, do I have one? I don't have one. You could glue a paper clip here and use the paper clip to hang it. Or you could glue 2 pieces of jute on each side of the sign and have it go across, and that could be used to hang it. You could drill a hole in the top and put a ribbon on it. So a lot of different ways to hang it. The only thing that I would not recommend is using a sawtooth hanger where you get the screws or a D-ring or something like that where you're screwing in or nailing in those pieces. Because this wood is 1/4 inch thick, those little screws are gonna poke through, and you'll see them on the front. So keep that in mind when you are putting your hanger on there. So anyways, that's available. And let's see if I have any questions. So thanks for hanging out with me. If you catch this on the replay, comment replay. If you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them. And you can get this in our shop at redbyrddesigns.com. Hit the shop button. I think it's right on our front page, though, under our featured items. So you'll get it right there, too. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of the afternoon and have a great weekend. I'm sure I'll be popping in here again But we'll talk to you later. Bye.